First and foremost, Vice President JD Vance very recently at Naval Air Station Oceana. This was an hour ago, a little more than an hour ago, that JD Vance was arriving at Oceana, addressing the crowd. Representative Jen Kiggins from the 2nd Congressional District here in Virginia also addressing the crowd. And this happened really just a few hours ago in full as an event. And JD Vance very specifically towards the back half of that morning stream, towards the latter portion of the 11 a.m. hour, speaking to the crowd. Now, after Vice President Vance spoke to the crowd at Air Station Oceana, himself standing alongside Representative Kiggins, held a press gaggle for media that was at the event. What we're going to do is we're actually going to listen in to that press opportunity. You heard most of Vice President Vance's speech in that morning stream, but you did not hear any of this particular press opportunity. So we're going to listen into this portion here now, and then we'll move forward with our coverage on Live Impact News.
Well, right now, the technical negotiators are sitting down with the Iranians, with the Qataris, and with others in Doha. You know, talking about some of the details here, making sure commercial traffic really does. It's already started in an amazing direction. We've got now oil at $68. We've got gas prices starting to come down, but really just ensuring that we continue to make the progress on that. And that's what they're focused on. And then, you know, we're going to, obviously, we're worried about the nuclear issue. We're going to start talking about that. So right now, the talks are going well. It's still pretty early, but talks are going well.
When you spoke at the briefing room a couple of weeks back, you mentioned there are well-known factions within the Iranian government that you're struggling, not struggling, I should say, but you kind of have to negotiate with both. Can you give us a little more color on what those factions look like? Who is helpful in being productive in those talks and who is not?
Look, I think in the Iranian system, like a lot of places, you've got people who actually recognize the last 47 years of their government has been a mistake and that they need to change their relationship with the United States, with Europe, with the Gulf Arab countries. And then you've got a few people who are still kind of attached to the old ways. We think we see a lot of momentum for the people who are trying to turn over a new leaf. We're obviously going to give, that's why we're going to give the negotiations as much of a chance to succeed as possible. But of course, as I said to somebody earlier, if they try to rebuild that nuclear program, if they refuse to let inspections in, if they, I should say, resume shooting at commercial vessels, which they have stopped for a few days, then obviously the president still has a lot of options on the table. We'll do one more question. Anybody?
Some conservatives are angry with Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Are you one of them?
Well, look, do I think she made a mistake in the ruling? I do. I don't know how anybody can say that if a person who is an illegal alien, or a person, for example, who's pregnant and comes to the United States on a vacation, they have a baby and all of a sudden their entire family gets the benefits of American citizenship. I don't think that's what the framers of the 14th Amendment had in mind. I don't think it's the right case. But look, it was 5-4. Sometimes the Supreme Court makes mistakes. We're going to try to correct that mistake, but nobody's perfect, including the Supreme Court. See you guys. Have a happy 4th if I don't talk to you.
Happy 4th.
Okay, so again, Vice President JD Vance, Congresswoman Jen Kiggins, and then also accompanying the two of them during that press opportunity was VA Secretary Doug Collins, also standing in frame there. You heard the Vice President talk about a number of topics and answering questions from mostly Virginia media. During the speech that he gave at Oceana, he also spoke about members of the carrier Air Wing 8 who had just returned from USS Gerald R. Ford. If you remember the Ford coming off of that record-breaking 11-month deployment in multiple parts of the globe that we reported on quite a bit. We may have time later on in our stream to listen to some of the speeches in full between Congresswoman Kiggins and Vice President Vance, see if particularly there were any remarks about the war in Iran and the progress towards speech on that note, since he is speaking to soldiers and sailors and airmen today.